Welcome to Auntie K's Tarot, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hello everyone and welcome to Auntie K's Tarot. So, I got up, I did all the big Saturday chores, I went out and I went to the thrift store and I got this lovely outfit. Got some sandals, got my kids some shoes. Found this on the side of the road and like, it's epic. Like it's really epic. I haven't put candles in all the things yet, but so found that, which was fabulous. And I got my nails done, which I haven't had my nails done in a really long time. And so there's like stars with some sparkle, and the middle fingers and the thumbs are these. So yeah, crystal balls and stars with this nail polish that's called cat's eye. And so it has magnetic metal sparkles in it, and they use a magnet to pull the sparkles so that when it reflects, it has like places where there's sparkles and less sparkles, so you get this cat's eye effect. So that was also fun. And the locally owned plant store is fabulous. It's fabulous. I am sorry, locals on Marketplace and Kijiji, you're charging more for smaller plants than the plants at the local shop. So this pothos is absolutely gorgeous. This was like a $5 plant, right? This was like a $20 plant, and when I took it out of the dirt, we have two, and they're an amazing size, and it was pointed out to me by a plant auntie that it is easier to establish a larger plant than a smaller plant. So I'm taking that advice. Totally forgot to get some stakes for this, which is growing like a third one. The pots were all pretty much decorative and so expensive, so I want bigger, cheaper pots. And yeah, we got more growth going on in here as well. Oh, and look down there. Yep. So like they both really need bigger pots. So, and when I was coming back from getting these nails done, I got complimented on this new outfit that I was wearing. So it was two separate trips out, because when my kid and his friend were getting ready for their sleepover, I was like, you can do this for me. I haven't done it in years. And so on my way back, I got a compliment on my outfit, and that felt good. And also, I like a good scarf, and it felt good that I liked my outfit, but also a few years ago when I was at a walk-in clinic for an allergy-related asthma attack, and looking for a better upgrade on my inhalers because, like, I did not have the right ones. The doctor kept asking me about my alcohol use and would not believe that I only have a couple drinks, maybe 4 times a year or not. And I was like, what other than the health card telling you I'm indigenous makes you not believe me that I'm a relatively sober person and probably drink way less than even you do? And he said, because my chest has all these broken blood vessels. I'm like, I'm in here for massive amount of allergies, many of which impact my asthma, which could cause this, right? And he's like, well, yes. And I was like, but even though this is the reason I'm in here, instead of this telling you that I've probably been undertreated my whole life as an indigenous person, you instead assume as an indigenous person it probably means I'm an alcoholic. But I am also now concretely aware of how often how I'm treated is impacted by how visible the scarring from my way undertreated asthma and allergies is on my chest. So that's also a part of my day. But I, of course, because it's Invaders Week, want to get on to more political talks today. Okay. Also, this was a political talk. This was a political talk. Just the same. Invasion Week is heavy. Also, how you all sound justifying July 4th and 1st. Invasion Week is heavy. This is what I wanted to talk about, actually. Okay. In this time since October of 2023, when people are like, you've always wondered how, like, Hitler got away with it in Germany. How did the German people let it happen? Well, the entire Western world, like, has just been like, oh, we're just gonna let our governments participate in, another settler colonial genocide. I wonder why they're okay with that. I wonder why settlers around the world would aid another country in settler colonial genocide. Oh my God. Maybe the route to liberation is to end all settler colonies. and as people in the US are watching what's happening to anyone who's not white, and sometimes white people who support people who aren't white, and being rounded up and sent to concentration camps internationally, which, FYI, is Hitler set up concentration camps outside of Germany proper. But land he was occupying and controlling. But like, paying other people to do it, whatever. And Focused on of Infinity has a good point, which brings me to the point I'm going to make.
If you are a person with the complexion for the protection and you are wondering what you can do, here's an idea. You know all those folks who are working for CBP and ICE? Those people have families. You're related to some of them, right? And you know who they are. You have been kind of letting them get a pass for years because they clearly didn't just become bad people. They've already had at least you could see the glimmer of a fascist there. And you probably said, oh, they're just cosplaying. Like when they go with their friends to LARP on weekends, like they're just LARPing with all those weird plate characters, and you made fun of them and you ignored the fact that it's not cosplay, it's practice. And now they're doing it for real. You can make these people's life hell, just like they're making everyone else's life hell. They're out there breaking up families. So why aren't you willing to break up your family a little bit to out the fascists? There has to be a cost, right? Y'all are not making there enough of a cost for them to do what they're doing. They're going out, destroying families, destroying lives, beating people up, grabbing people off the street, all masked up, and you just let them come home and eat a nice meal with you. Why? Why are you letting that happen? There's two reasons. One, you're a fascist too, and you don't want to admit it. Two, you're afraid. The second one, I can maybe understand, but guess who's more afraid than you are? Everybody that doesn't look like you. As a person who grew up mostly around white folks, I know that the most difficult thing for y'all can be creating social strife, right? Even if somebody walks in the room who is a known abuser, right? It would be more awkward for you to stand up and yell, that person is an abuser, than it would for you to not say anything. Even though you know that if that person walks into the event, the party, whatever, it's likely that somebody's going to get abused by them in some way, psychologically, physically, whatever, right? Y'all have been groomed by a deeply, deeply sick and sad society. But now is your fucking chance. No dates, no meals, no chit chats, no text, no how you doing messages, none of that. You have to make there be a cost. And I don't think they're going to be willing to pay it, because to be that kind of person, you have to be a coward to begin with. You have to be a follower. Those who believe that might makes right are inherently cowards, because that's the easier route, especially if you just happen to be born in a larger sized body and you are physically imposing, right? You have to be a coward to walk up to somebody and destroy their family for a couple of dollars. You have to make there be a cost for what they're doing. It's not something I can do. It's not something that we can do. We BIPOC, we people of the global majority, we can't do that work. You have to.
But, like, there are things some of you can do. Like, some of you have family members or friends or people you know who, like, work for ICE, right? Some of you have family members or people you know who work for weapons factories. Like, you can expose them. You can expose them, because nobody says, oh, we forgive you for being a fascist because You didn't want your family to be mad at you because they were all fascists. Yes, it's totally okay to go along with it if you're going along with it because your family are fascists. Totally get a pass. No. No. Like, you either turn in your family for being the fascists or you chose fascism because it was the most comfortable thing for you to do. And that is actually the truth of how it happens. Like, you tell yourself there's nothing you can do. You then later on tell yourself, like, you didn't actually know about it. I grew up hearing about adopting Indigenous children. Not surprising because I am an adoptee. We call ourselves the 60s scoop. I didn't hear that term growing up, of course, but I heard about the Adopt an Indian Child program all the time, right? In my parents' church, my adopted parents' church, where missionaries would come and encourage people to adopt an Indian child. And my parents would get on stage to give their testimony of how they adopted one of these heathen Indian children, and as a blessing in return for taking on this great burden and responsibility, God blessed them with not one but two of their natural children after struggles with infertility. And the blessing of the Adopt an Indian Child program is it's so much faster than trying to adopt a white child. Many Adopt an Indian Child programs weren't just coming out of like direct out of hospital staffs like me, but also as residential schools were being closed. And there was also a time where these missionaries would come into the churches to recruit people. You can be a missionary locally, not far from home, in an Indian residential school, helping bring these heathen children to God. And, somebody would go up and choose this as their mission. You didn't have to be trained as a teacher or anything. You just had to be a good Christian man or woman who wanted to bring God to heathens. And so in like 1991, I think, in grade 11, I wrote an independent history paper on residential schools, which were still running. Many were closing. I initially got a failing grade despite citing sources, because there were sources. Government talked about it. There was occasionally newspaper articles about it. I was able to find these in the public library and in the university library where I lived. And so I took it to the vice principal and got a better grade. But my perspective on the residential schools wasn't historical. With access to the university library, because at this age I was writing university papers for university students as writing their papers. So they would give me access to their library, including the law library, and so I knew a bunch of UN conventions really well by grade 11 high school. Not thanks to my high school education, but thanks to how I was making money. So I had this argument with my teacher about whether or not people knew, and I was like, you knew unless you chose to just not pay attention because it wasn't of interest to you, so you didn't remember, and that's how you didn't know. And your parents probably knew, because even if you don't go to church, your parents probably went to church. Maybe nobody told you, but yeah, people know about it. They're just turning a blind eye because the truth is uncomfortable. So they finally get closed down a few years after that, and then, a few more years, and they start talking about reconciliation. I mean, and still today, people are like, we didn't know. We didn't know. Okay. Many of you probably didn't grow up in churches, and so you didn't know. Every single one of you who grew up in a church, I don't believe you. You probably knew. The rest of you, I'm pretty sure your parents knew. Maybe they didn't tell you because you were kids. Why bother? Who cares? They weren't concerned of it. It wasn't of interest. And they didn't think there was anything bad or interesting there to tell you. If any of you had actually noticed, there was almost no Indigenous kids in your classes. Your parents would have either said, well, they all live on res, or they have their own schools. They have their own schools. And that is something people knew, because it is a comment I heard in the school system. I thought they had their own schools. But those of us who were adopted in the scoop, we went to schools with our adopted white siblings. We went to schools, to regular schools, to white schools, because we had white parents. And so they were doing the job of assimilating us and raising us in the ways the government wanted. And so we were supposed to be able to function normally in the school system. And I remember these comments. So I think my point is, for this Invasion Week video, is there are multiple ways in which a population allows things to happen. One, when you tell yourself there's nothing you can reasonably do, and that reasonable part really includes nothing that would disrupt your life, make you uncomfortable, make your family stop talking to you. Like, wouldn't do that. What about risking your job? What if you work one of these jobs? Are you willing to quit your job? Because if you remember in the Nuremberg trials, I was following orders is not a justifiable excuse. Nobody cares if this was your job and you're following orders. You did them. So there's those things. And 10 years from now, 10 years from now, tell your children the truth of what happened. And don't ever claim you didn't know. You didn't know. Stop saying about atrocities, I didn't know. Instead, say, I didn't educate myself on that. I didn't pay attention to that. And take more responsibility for your adult self. How long have you been an adult? How long? If you're 20 something and you're watching my video, okay, you're probably new to like, how do I educate myself for my own desire after I've been told how to do it by other people all this time. Now you're figuring that out. Okay. Everybody else, who's probably the laziest group, are those who've had their whole adult lives to figure it out. You don't know because you didn't try to find out. You didn't try to find out what you didn't know. And you can blame the school system all you want, but at some point, you're actually the one responsible for that. All right. We are going to stop and turn the camera around and do a quick pull. So you also get to see my pretty nails. Okay, so these are all great decks for, these are all great tarot decks for, hey, do more. Next World Tarot, Land Back Tarot, and my Star Wars Tarot deck. All right. That a bit more centered for everybody. Okay, let's see what the Next World Tarot has to say. Choose the reading that most accurately describes you. What more you can do. I think I set it up like the Jedi training spread, where we have like a look at where you're positive or negative. Whew. So the lower numbers, especially if you're below the first two numbers, reads as, you know, you are sitting in a deficit here. So you are someone sitting in your comfort zone, and my child got injured on bike today, and it's hard to sleep. So, small interruption. You're staying way too far in comfort, and you need to take things a step at a time. Go learn from others. Do not jump to, if I'm going to get active, I'm going to express all my thoughts, my feelings. So it's a progression. It's a progression, and you had to take your time, your steps. Learn from these people how to support these people. And in this case, it is perhaps trans rights that you are being called to support, and to make sure that it is an inclusive trans rights that you are working towards that supports Black, Brown, Indigenous, and so-called immigrant communities. All right. Justice is not going to come from you sitting around being comfortable. Just making sure there's no upside down cards left in this deck. I think there is one. Okay. Yep. Okay. And by upside down, I meant totally backwards. Okay. Woo. I'm having trouble shuffling today, and it doesn't feel like the nails so much as my hands. It is pretty humid, and that does make them feel all swollen. Whew. Whoa. Okay, so you are probably somebody who speaks or writes or takes an academic approach to things. And you are doing things in a good way. Remember that your dark side tendencies are to be polite. And overcoming that is through the things that letting emotions drive you. That ugly cry, the emotions that drive you, to pull out this politeness whenever you're feeling a weakness in your position, though I would say you are generally sitting in a strong position. And with the ante of arrows or ante of wands in here, the Scout of Weapons would represent the Page of Swords. So with the ante of arrows, always remember to look back at older historical and traditional fights that are appropriate to this particular time, and protests to simply get your government to give you a few more rights are not going to cut it. You appropriate to the time. Okay. And with the Star Wars here, this is a lack of direction, not wanting to upset people you love. If this is your reading, you are one of those people we were talking about. Probably also if this was your reading, to some extent. Although you can just be supporting other communities, like we talked about. But if this is your reading, there's more sacrifice to do. There's real sacrifice to do here if this is your reading. You've been taking no direction at all. It is time to take direction. The first sacrifice is financial comfort, and it will impact your relationships. That's a sacrifice. It's I'm sorry, but it's a karmic sacrifice, because a family, loved ones, happiness, these a different kind of wealth are the things that were taken. Like the settler, whatever country you're in, and also if you are a citizen of one of the parent empires, the wealth that you are making money off of is extracted from other people. So it is fair to have it take a hit there. All right, so that is a reading and a bit of a lecture. One way or another, there is more work to do for everybody, and you might need to dig in a little deeper to understand how to go about that, because the couple of minutes devoted here to each reading, it's not going to cut it. You'll need to do more of that self-help work on your own self. All right, talk to you later, folks.